In this episode of the Ostrich Running Podcast, we sit down with Mason Wright, better known as the Buff Runner.
Let's go. I've been waiting for this.
Former powerlifting football player turned ultra athlete who refuses to be put in a box. Mason has gone from dominating the weight room to tackling some of the toughest endurance challenges, proving that runners don't have to fit the traditional mold.
I don't fit it.
You do not fit any mold. You are one of a kind, Juice. He opens up about feeling like an outsider in a running world, using the doubters as fuel and pushing his body to the limits.
Another one.
Yeah, here we go. We'll talk about his biggest race achievements, including the grueling Whiskey Basin 60-miler, where he literally ran until he collapsed.
Do they drink on that?
They don't. Well, maybe. We'll ask him. We might have to find out. Plus, we're going to hear about his insane Project 3434, his plan to run across the state of Utah, and why he's dedicated to causes like the Single Parent Project. From porta potty rituals to surviving on pancakes and PB&Js, Mason keeps it real and unfiltered. If you ever doubted yourself as a runner or felt like you didn't fit the mold, this episode will change the way you see endurance sports.
Oh, God.
Tune in for an inspiring, hilarious, and brutally honest conversation with one of the most unconventional runners out there. Let's cue that intro music. Welcome back to another episode of the Ostrich Running Podcast, where we dive into the wild, weird, and downright insane world of endurance sports. I'm Nick, and as always, I'm joined by my co-host, Jarrett, the Juice Horton, who still thinks running is some sort of medieval punishment.
It is. It has to be.
Well, today's guest is someone who would probably agree with you, at least when it comes to suffering. He's a former D1 college football player, a powerlifter turned ultra runner, and a guy who thrives on proving people wrong.
I've been waiting a long time for this interview.
Oh, yeah, me too. Well, you might know him as the Buff Runner on social media, but today we know him as Mason Wright. Here we go. Yeah, so we're going to go ahead and get into a lot of Mason's insane challenges, from running ultras to literally collapsing at the finish line of his 60-mile race. He's also gearing up for an even bigger challenge, running across the state of Utah. And we'll talk about all that, plus his work with the Single Parent Project and his training philosophy. Not he really does hit the porta potty 4 times in a run.
What?
I don't know. Maybe. We'll see. But yeah, let's lace up. Let's grab a PB&J and get ready, because this is going to be a fun one. Mason Wright, welcome to the show.
Let's go.
Oh, yeah.
Thanks for having me on, guys. Yeah, one thing, I actually never, I had a bunch of D1 scholarships, never actually played college football. I chose school over football. Yeah, little background there. But so I, as you heard, football player. I used to weigh 285 pounds. I was a big defensive lineman. I used to be a big boy. Because I quit football, are you? I'm 6'2".
Okay.
Oh, yep. Small 6'2", huh?
Yeah. But once I quit football because I wanted to focus on school. I ended up getting accepted to dental school, which never pursued, but obviously that takes up a lot of time with school. And so I didn't know what to do. So I was like, screw it. I'll become a power lifter, because, I held some records and a few things. I could bench 450 pounds. I could squat over 600 pounds. Like I could throw up weight at 17 years old. So I just went straight into powerlifting. So I was like, that's what I know how to do. And then my wife's family invited me to run a Spartan race with them. And I was like, why not? I don't mind a challenge. Ended up falling in love with it. And pretty much overnight dove all in and raced as a Spartan Pro in 2019. And then obviously COVID came around. And
you
so
placed third in that pro, right? Because I think I heard on some other interviews.
Yeah, so I raced in the Spartan World Championship in 2019, and I got 17th place.
17th, okay.
But then, so I came back in 2022. So COVID hit, and I jumped into ultra running, and went to my ultra running stint. I got hurt and came back to racing Spartan Pro again in 2022, just to like, basically it was my bread and butter. So I was like, let's get back into it. Let's get comfortable. Yeah, I got second place at the Hawaii trifecta weekend. I got second place out there.
What is the Spartan? How long is it?
Yeah, go ahead. Anybody who doesn't know Spartan, break it down quickly. Yeah.
Yeah. So Spartan races are obstacle course races. Okay. They range anywhere from a 5K to a half marathon. I mainly race the half marathon distance, and they'll have anywhere from 20 to 40 obstacles. They do have an ultra, which I haven't done for some reason. I need to do a Spartan ultra just to do it, but
it's maybe because you don't have time with everything that you're doing. So
probably
that might be a little part.
Probably. But yeah, so it's obstacle course racing though. And it's just like, I mean, my nickname's the Buff Runner. I can still lift a ton of weight and I'm still got all that, but then I also can run. And so I do really well in obstacle course stuff. So that's, but yeah, I got second place in that one in Hawaii.
Did you train before your first one? Or did you just jump right into it?
Well, kind of, yes. Like I was like, I can't weigh 200 because at the time I naturally lost a little bit of weight, not training like I was and eating like I was being a football player. Right. I still weighed a little over 260 and I was like, I can't weigh 260 pounds. So I did some running, did some trail running. I actually never was I went straight from not running to trail running. I made a very unorthodox jump into running by just going straight into trail running. But yeah, I did a little bit of training. I lost about 20 pounds, but then from there, I just made I just went all in from there.
Jumped all in.
Yeah. So you've tackled ultras, hosted your own 24-hour run, and now you're preparing to run across Utah. What's driving you right now? And go ahead and explain to our listeners what this 430-mile run across Utah is.
Yeah, so I'm running 430 miles across the state of Utah. It's as crazy as it sounds. Yeah. And I'll be running from basically Logan, Utah, which is the Utah-Idaho border, all the way to St. George, Utah at the Utah-Arizona border. The whole journey will be 430 miles. I'll run 55 miles a day for 8 days. That's what the average will be. The distances jump between 50 to 57 miles. It just kind of like, but it averages at 55 miles per day.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so 55 miles a day for 8 days straight. And there's several reasons for this run. It's a cool achievement. And it's just something that's awesome. I'm from Utah, so it's cool to get to run across your home state, especially when it's a big state. It's not like it's, the East Coast and, those little itty bitty states over there, it's a big state. So it's like a really cool achievement in that sense. Yeah. But then also it's preparation for my run across America next year.
Which is another thing we have to talk about. Because
I'm telling you right now, you have so many things that I know we won't get to probably really even scratch the surface. So I'm going to hold you to promising me to a post-run 430 after your Utah run. I want to get a recap on that. We want you back on here because I know that there's so much more I want to cover. So I'm holding you to that right now live. That's why I did that.
Yeah, we'll for sure get it on after.
Perfect.
But so it's preparation for my run across America. It's just kind of like working out any little weird little kinks or anything that could come up along the way. When you do these long distance multi-day events, there's a lot of factors, a lot of logistics.
Yeah.
It's an absolute logistical nightmare. I cannot emphasize that enough. I have said this before and I will say it 100 times again, is the running is going to be the easiest part. The logistics of putting a run together like this. I mean, I basically have worked on which is so funny because I told my wife this is not what was going to happen, but it happened and she knew. She told me this was going to happen. I basically have put in about 40 to 50 hours a week, not including my training, not including my work, not including anything else that I'm doing, just planning the logistics of this run. Whether it's meetings with brand sponsors, whether it's meetings with my crew, whether it's I've spent in total almost 90 hours just building my route. And so it's the logistics
which has also been adjusted several times from what I've been
following
following on social media, right?
That's why it's taken 90 hours.
Snow. A lot of snow has impacted his trail. They're out there in Utah. Like
he's
showing
I think you guys can see what's happening outside right now.
Oh,
it is
Oh
gosh.
my God.
full blizzard here.
Us non-runners think that you guys all just get up like Forrest Gump, and then just start running, and then people start following.
No,
But no,
Yeah, what the movies do for it, right?
Yeah.
There is. I looked at this. They've been trying to talk me down from some long multi-day events, right? Because I have 2 young kids. My wife, they're like, don't do this right now. And I'm seeing your post of the logistics, right?
Yeah, because
just
this guy
what
wants
goes
to run
into it.
across all North America one day.
I
Right?
would love a bucket list for mine is the Pan Am Trail, right? Just going. You know what? Actually, what introduced me to your profile and how I learned about you was the time you spent in the RV. Right, just living out of the RV, just going around, running, just hanging out in that city. I forget where you were at, but
we traveled up the whole coast, so
the whole coast there was beautiful right there. And I was like, man, I would love to do this, just to be in an RV and just go. But yeah, again, logistics is insane. So what exactly is driving you to push through these crazy training blocks, the logistics adjustments, being a husband, all of this stuff. And I'm sure you have a lot of people who are depending on you for this as well. That's like another thing that you put on your shoulders. And but yeah, so what's driving you to just keep pushing forward with that?
Yeah, I mean, the whole premise of this is running for the Single Parent Project. That's what this is for. That's what the Run Across America is for raising money. It's not just raising the money, it's raising awareness for just single parents in general. Like, my mom was a single mom. My mother-in-law was a single mom. All of my aunts at some point were single moms. My dad, who I have a relationship with now, he has a young 5-year-old all by himself. Mom's nowhere in the picture. It's just him and this 5-year-old. Now she's 6. I forget, but he's now a single dad, and there's so many. And I mean, you guys probably know single parents somewhere, whether they're in your family or.
I'm a son of a single mother, and just shout out to moms out there, the real ultras of life, who push us through, and now being a parent with my wife, 2 kids, I can't even imagine how my mom survived that, right? Yeah. How moms survive that. Yeah. I mean, and as a kid, you don't appreciate half of these things that you're just young. You just you assume that it happens on its own, right? And it's not until you're older and you take that moment and you step back,
see all the work that they in, right?
And you're like, man, my mom did this by herself. That's why when I saw the foundation, the project you're running for, I told you, this hits close to home, man. And I want to support this in any way that I could. And I'm rooting for you in this whole journey. I think it's a great thing what you're doing. But yeah, so if you don't mind, maybe, what was your childhood like? Were there moments there that, shaped your mindset that you have now, the resilience that you have now? I know you mentioned you're an older sibling, right?
Yeah. So I have it's complicated. So my dad actually has 10 kids. Okay. I am not the oldest of those kids, but I'm the oldest of my biological. So I have a little brother. My mom was a single mom of me and my little brother. Yeah. And then I have a bunch of half siblings that are kind of scattered all over the place. And that's why I told you I have a 5-year-old sister, but it's a half sibling. Yeah. And so, yes, I'm the oldest in my biological family. And especially during that time when I was I was in that older brother role, I didn't really have a relationship with my other siblings until I got a little bit older. So totally, I'd still count myself the oldest in that sense, even though I have older siblings. So it's a little complicated, but
it makes sense.
Yeah, it's funny. I was talking to my wife. I've actually talked to a couple people about this recently, about I don't know where the mindset comes from. Not saying that my mom and dad are not extremely hard workers, but this weird, crazy drive to do these crazy things. And it's not just this, I own several businesses and I continue to do this. It's not just ultra running. I live my life like an ultra marathon. I have this weird mindset that I don't actually know where it came from. I don't know where I learned it from.
It's just been a part of you. Yeah. Like, we talk about this because even when we're not on the show, right? Jarrett's fascination of like, why? Where do you get this stuff, right? Again, single parent household, traumas that I relate with you much growing up. Son of an alcoholic, drug addict father, went to prison. I found my own escape, right, which was not a healthy escape. I'm very open about my my past struggles with drugs and alcohol. I was a veteran of the Navy, and a lot of that PTSD from that carried over. It wasn't until I found this outlet to be able to really feel somewhat free by beating myself down. So I don't know where it comes from either. We often question, is it this trauma and this sport?
And we found out a lot of CEOs were.
That's the other thing, So I'm a CEO. You're a CEO.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of us in the community that are like-minded, right? The childhood traumas, this drive, and nobody can really seem to pinpoint where this is. And that's why it's so hard for me to answer, Jarrett, like, why do you do this? What is it about it? And I still can't, some things I know I'm chasing because I spent so much of my life in an emotional detached state, right? I personally feel like I'm doing these challenges, these distances to feel some sort of something like some sort of emotional response. I tell Jarrett, I'm so jealous of like the videos of people crossing the marathon finish line crying, right? I'm like, what does that feel like?
And that was one of my questions for Mason. Did he feel something during his first run, or every time that you run, did you have like that aha or God moment?
No, I've had them. But I also have had like, I honestly don't know why I haven't quit, to be pretty honest. Like, like my first ultra marathon, my first official ultra marathon, I'd run a handful before that. But my first official ultra marathon, I tore my posterior tib at mile 20, and I ran 40 miles with a torn tendon in my leg.
That's insane to me.
It was one of the most miserable experiences of my life. I don't know. Like, I've had a few like big, like when I podiumed that race, that Spartan race, like that was a really big goal of mine for years. When I first started like getting into Spartan, I was like, I'm going to win a Spartan race one day. Like, this is what I'll do. Like, and then I did it. And so like, that was a really big moment for me. And, but like, and I do get the runner's high all the time, and I love running, but I don't, this is where I think this is why I have a hard time explaining this stuff, because everybody talks about, these big moments, these aha moments, these crazy things where like, I don't think I've actually had one of those. Nothing to the extent of how people have explained. I live for that like struggle. Yeah. I don't know what it is. It's, it's hard. It's so difficult to explain, and just because it's not a normal thing.
Yeah. So, the 430 miles, this is going to be your absolute furthest distance, right? In a single run. Yeah. What are you looking to get out of this? What expectations do you have? Are you going in with no expectations? What is it that Mason's expecting?
I'm fully expecting to suffer the whole time.
Like, I don't know.
Man. Well, do you look forward to that? Like, do you?
I do. Like, I wish I had the exact quote pulled up in front of me. But like, basically the quote is, life without pain isn't a life worth living, because pain shows that you're doing something worthwhile. And then I always throw in the end of like, you can call me a masochist, but that's what I live for. Like, like that pain and that struggle is the pain and the struggle just shows that you're doing something. It shows that you're doing something worthwhile. And so, and for some reason, I'm drawn to ultra marathons for that reason. Yeah. Like, you put me in a pain cave, you on that. Put me through the suffer. Like, I live for it. Yeah. I live for it.
Yeah. There's been some moments where I tell my co-host here, I wonder if at times I'm punishing myself, if there's maybe just like the things that I did in the past, right? If it is some sort of like flogging, right? Like I need to feel like uh, reparation through pain and suffering, to feel somewhat okay. It's weird. I think we're all messed up in the head. Let's just be real. We're all messed up in the head. Yeah.
It's really interesting to me because I did wake up and just run a half marathon without training, without doing anything. And it was really painful for me also. But I didn't get the feeling like I need to do this again. It was like one of the
now you need to do it again. That's the thing. Right, you got to do it again.
Longer.
I'm trying to. This is my goal. Like this whole thing is, I figure if I can just plant subliminal messaging throughout this whole podcast journey, right? At some point, we're going to get this guy to do the full marathon, maybe even go further. He keeps saying no, but I mean, if he's in this,
I'm getting more and more inspired with every interview.
Here we go. Now we're breaking down the wall.
I will say, there are two sports that are the most unique in the way that they teach you more about yourself than any other sport. Football is one of those sports. You cannot replicate it because you can't play football when you graduate from high school. If you're lucky enough, you get to play college, but like there's no other opportunity. You get to put those pads on and you get to experience. You get to experience what the team building, the individual, like what you build in yourself, everything that comes from football. It's one of the most unique sports. There's nothing that comes close to it. Rugby would probably be the next closest. And then the next thing's running. Running is probably the most accessible sport, but it's something that will teach you, because it's probably, as far as physically as things goes, skill based. Obviously, there's more. Like baseball is arguably the hardest sport in the world. Cricket, baseball, like those sports.
That's another debate.
We have a debate with that too. I'm like, baseball, man.
It's skill based, and like this is this is based on skill. But like running, I would say is probably the hardest sport. The way you have to physically push your body to accomplish what you're trying to accomplish cannot be matched by any other sport.
And you can't lean on your teammates at all.
That's
it's just you and your mind, pretty much.
It doesn't matter the distance. It does not matter the distance. It could be a 5K, it could be an all-out mile, or it could be 500 miles. It doesn't matter the distance. Yes, it's you versus yourself. Even if you're trying to win the race, it's still you versus yourself. Kipchoge and these guys who run 2-hour marathons, they're not racing the other people. They're racing themselves. Right. They're trying to beat what they have done previously in order to inevitably try and win this race. But it's something that you don't have teammates to lean on. There's no rest. You can't just take a break in the middle of a marathon. Like you can, but you can't.
Right. You still got to finish.
You can't get subbed out. There's no subbing out. It's not a basketball game. It's not a soccer game. There's no substitutions. There's, it's something that is truly unique in the sense that it is you versus yourself, and you'll learn more about yourself running than I have learned so much about myself running. It's insane. It is
more than
absolutely
football,
insane.
would you say?
Yes. I've learned more life lessons from football that I think help develop. And if you never played football, it's not like you can't, it's not like you can't learn these lessons other places. It's just a unique place where you can learn these lessons. And I think you can also learn them from running. You just have to dig a little deeper for it, but it's, the lessons you learn from running, no, you cannot learn from football.
I love the comparison because, I never thought of it like that, right? When I was playing football, clearly I was not, college bound or anything, but I was all throughout Pop Warner to high school, right? But those times out there with pads were my moment to get rid of all this internal hate and anger that I had that was going on at home, all that trauma that was happening at home. I got to go out there and hit somebody, right? And it'd be okay. It was my moment to just release so much. And you're so right. When you're done, unless you have the opportunity to play college and beyond, that's it. You don't ever get to go in a pickup league of a football pickup league anywhere. Nobody's really doing that.
No.
So yeah, the next best thing is definitely in this community, in this running world, right? Where you can just, we say it's easy. You just get up and start running, but obviously it becomes really expensive because then you start seeing new gear and all this stuff. But then
races,
I digress, right? But yeah, so, you call yourself an unorthodox runner, right? What has it been like stepping into the ultra community as someone who really doesn't fit the typical mold? I know you've kind of mentioned some stuff in our previous questionnaire, right? Like, have you had full out support from the community, like coming into this?
Absolutely not. No. Oh no, absolutely
wild.
Yeah.
And I'm going to say I'm not surprised because I have seen some jerks out there. And that's why I do want to talk about this, because as welcoming as the running community is, there is still like, what do you call them? Like the traditionalists, right? Who are like so upset at this movement that is taking place with everybody running, which is wild to me, but I don't mean to cut you off. So yeah, tell me a little bit more about that.
Yeah. There's one person who has supported me, obviously, besides my wife, who's supported me through this whole thing, but a good buddy of mine, his name's Nate. He's an absolute badass. Dude's won 200-mile races. He was on track to win the Triple Crown, but then the Tahoe wildfires ended that race, so he couldn't actually finish it. Dude's an absolute, and no one knows who he is, but he's an absolute beast in the ultra running community. Like, dude's on top with like David Goggins and those guys, but just no one knows who he is. Because he's not on Instagram. He just like hides in the shadows, appears, wins these races, disappears. It's crazy.
Doing it for himself.
Who was that guy?
Yeah.
Yeah. No, seriously. It's crazy. But yeah, he has supported me since day one. Like he has been awesome. But yeah, no, I totally got right now I weigh 200 pounds. Mm-hmm. That's not normal. It's not normal to be a big guy. I also have continued to lift my whole running journey, like lift a lot. This is the first time that I've lifted less than 3 times a week in my entire running journey.
Wow.
It's just because my volume, I'm doing like 3 to 4 hours of cardio a day. I can't freaking, it's
like,
brutal.
Are these people like looking at you and like, hey,
you can't do this.
Lift yourself up. Yeah.
Yes, you can't do this. This isn't smart. Like the body can't do this. You can't do this. You need to do what I do. You need to follow what I do. Yeah. And then in turn, you don't get invited to group runs, and you don't like.
That's crazy.
Yeah, things like that. So that totally is how my running.
Yeah. This is why I started this brand too. Right? Is I've gone to a bunch of races where, and when I say intimidating, I'm not intimidated, but like I can see how it's intimidating for people to show up and everybody's on the start line like, this is what I do. This is how I've been doing this. Oh, you shouldn't even do this. Pushing their race day philosophy on people. And I always say it's just like raising a kid, right? You can take all the advice in the world, but your kid is your kid. It's a one-of-a-kind individual, right? We are still a one-of-a-kind person. You have to really be in tune with listening to what your body does, wants, and needs, right? What you can handle is different from what I can handle. And I don't go around, preaching, these are the shoes that are going to make you the best, runner in the world. This is the path. This is the gels I take. This is what I do. Yeah. Recommendations are always great.
Right thing.
Yeah. Like everybody has their own say in it. And I always listen to it. I appreciate it. But there are a select few people who will punish you for not following their regimen.
I will say the turning point for me was when I won that Spartan race. That was a big turning point because I think like for like at least like the people that were around me, it was like, okay, this dude's legit. Like,
yeah.
Like, I mean, it's hilarious. I don't know if I see this little chat icon. Oh, I can't send you a photo. I wish I could send you a photo. It's a hilarious photo because I'm as tall. So I got second place. I'm as tall as the dude standing.
And I'll post it for us right here.
Okay. I'm as tall as the dude who's in first place on the podium. Like I'm, it's a hilarious picture, but it puts it into perspective. Like, at that race, I weighed a little over 205 pounds. and I'm 6'2". The dude who got first place and the dude who got third place were both like $130, $140, like
Right.
5'7", 5'8", however tall they were.
Which is amazing that he's doing this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was fast then. I'm not that fast now because it's obviously my training has changed. But it's just like
strides.
I'm noticing a shift, at least in my own, surrounding community, where this like there is that shift of people. I feel like being more
accepted.
I don't even think accepting is the right word, but just more people are like, oh, okay, like this can happen.
Yeah, like it's crazy that you have to prove your worth at some point, like right to like.
Dude, I feel like it's been my whole life.
Yeah,
I feel like it's been my whole life. Like it's funny, I was actually thinking about some of the questions you were asking previously, and it feels like like with football, it actually I feel like the moment that all of this started was my 8th grade English teacher. My 8th grade English teacher in front of the entire class told me that I would amount to nothing and that I'd basically be a waste of life in front of my whole class. I was a little shit. Don't get me wrong. Like I
deserve that. But
like,
listen,
like it's first off, you should never say anything like that to a child. Second, like, yes, I wasn't like I was a kid from a broken home.
Yeah.
Of course I'm going to have like weird behaviors and like, of course I'm also loud. I'm a loud guy. It's just who I am. And so, but yeah, I got told that in front of my whole class. And she said a few other things. Like we had to do like a dream thing. And so I talked about playing in the NFL and she's like, no, you'll never play in the NFL. And so I was like, okay, whatever. I guess I'll do that too. And so it started with that. So like with football, before school started, I would go to the gym at 4 a.m. and I would lift, and then I would go to football class and I would work out again. And I did that, a huge chunk of high school where I was working out 3 or 4 times a day and, pushing like through all of that, trying to prove that like, no, I'm not going to be a waste of space. No, yes, I can play in the NFL. Yes, I can let me prove you wrong. Yeah. Obviously I made that change and change that and focus on school. But like, I basically, I don't know if I would have ever played in the NFL.
Well,
I had a buddy, we'll never know. I had a buddy tell me, he's like, I think you would have just because of your hustle, but like, and then, with all my, school stuff, I had, you always have there's tons of haters and doubters through school and all of that stuff. And then now with running, it feels like it's been proving, just like trying to like basically prove certain people wrong, which I don't think is a healthy mindset, but it's, and my mindset has now changed from there. Like I don't have that mindset anymore. Yeah. At least of trying to prove people wrong, but that is where it started. It started with trying to prove someone wrong.
Yeah. So, Jarrett, also, I don't know, I know you just had an injury too. And, he still has to train through a knee injury. When did that injury occur? Did that put into doubt the upcoming 430-mile race? And how did you overcome that? What did you do to overcome that obstacle? Because clearly it's still happening, this run, and I've seen you push through it.
Yeah. So it's been 5 weeks, 6 weeks now. Honestly, lose track. I've been in pain for so long, I don't actually know anymore.
What was the injury?
So I initially injured it doing push-ups. Don't ask me how, but I did. I was doing elevated push-ups and the weight slipped and my knee hit the ground and it dislocated my kneecap. That initial jolt caused a slight tear in a ligament in my knee. It's not a vital ligament. It just helps hold the kneecap from moving side to side. So it does not impact running at all. The only thing it does is maybe cause a little bit of pain, but it's not, it's nothing that's like unmanageable.
And when you guys say a little bit of pain, it's like tons of pain for the rest
of
us.
No, it really, most people could walk around with it and never notice. Like it only matters if you're like making big cuts side to side. So like if I was still playing football, it'd be a really big deal, but I'm not.
Oh yeah.
But it did naturally change my gait because there was some pain. And so then I went from that to running 60 to 70 miles on a completely new gait. That's
God.
obvious. That's like going from never running. That's like, that's like you going from now and then just going and running 70 or 80 miles in a week. Like you'd have a bunch of issues. And so I ended up developing a really severe case of runner's knee, which is patellofemoral syndrome. It's the fancy word for it. And I woke up pretty much for about a 2-week period. I woke up every morning feeling like I was going to throw up because the pain was so bad. And then I would go run 12 to 15 miles.
And then you would go train, right?
Yep. I go run 12 to 15 miles and then do it again the next day and the next day and the next day.
It's amazing that you guys push through.
Well, you know what's crazy is it's not even the pain of the injury too, right? It's that. Additionally, okay, I got to go run, but this man's living in a winter wonderland.
Right,
so,
right. The weather is a whole different
40-mile-an-hour winds, like healthy. I don't want to run in that.
Yeah, dude, I will never, ever, ever, ever do a winter training block ever again after this. Like, I have to do it for my run across America, but after that, I'm never again. I will only run races in the summer and fall. Like, it's just.
Yeah.
This has been a horrible experience, to be completely honest. It's and the cold makes the knee pain worse because of the type of injury that it is. It's very temperature sensitive.
Yeah,
so the cold makes it hurt more. So it's,
oh my gosh.
Yeah, no, it's been miserable, but yeah, I've woke up every day and now we're good, by the way. We are healed up. I still have some pain, but it's like, at this point, it's nowhere near compared to where it was. So I'm like, whatever.
Do you feel like it negatively impacted you, or you just were able to push through and adjust?
No, dude, it destroyed me. It was like, what was it, like 3 weeks ago? I think it was about 3 weeks ago. The injury. I have been in this pain for 7 weeks. Yeah, so it's 7 weeks. Yeah, it was 3.5 weeks ago, wherever. I literally was just like, woke up instantly crying. Like I woke up in so much pain. I just woke up crying. And I had a run scheduled. And so I was like, okay, let me just go try and do this on the treadmill. And dude, I was so broken. I'm a dietitian. That's my job. I have a private practice. I work with athletes. And I was canceling like client calls because I just had the mental of, because I could block out the pain, but then I had to use literally everything in me to block out that pain. And then I'd get done with the run and I would be so physically and mentally exhausted that I had absolutely nothing left.
How you guys do it.
And so, but yeah, it was this day. I was just like, I basically had no more my mental tank was as empty as it could get.
That's a good segue into a 60 mile where you passed out. I want to hear about that.
Yeah. So, the Whiskey Basin run, I mean, clearly you're able to handle a ton of pain.
No, dude, I'm a pussy.
It does not sound like it, man. It does not sound like it. What was that basin, the 60-mile run like? You obviously, you said you had another injury there in the middle of that, and you had 40 miles to go. How did that brief story, how did that go? Like, how did that transpire, and what caused you to that fallout in the end?
Yeah, so I don't know what caused the injury. I really don't. I didn't step on anything. Posterior tib is an overuse thing. Okay. I don't know. I really to this. I know I didn't have proper insoles I have high arches. I didn't have insoles in my shoes. There are those things, but for it to tear, I don't understand how that transpired. But yeah, so I was about mile 18 into the race. I was crushing it. I was on pace to place top 10. In my first official ultra, I was feeling on top of the world. My nutrition was on point. Everything was going perfectly. And mile 20 hit, and I was like, oh my, what just happened? My leg was on fire. It hurt so bad. So I was like, okay, I'll just walk for a bit. Whatever. We're in an ultra. I'd already walked a few miles. That's how it goes.
Yeah.
And so I walked for a bit, and I had some ibuprofen on me, so I took some, and it just got worse. And then I very quickly maxed out my Tylenol and ibuprofen, like your max dose that you're allowed to take in a time period.
Yeah.
No, I maxed it out in a 24-hour period, and just like
within a few minutes.
It was within a few hours. Dude, I was in so much pain. So I could barely take a step at this point.
Yeah. So you get to this end, and
well, how did he push himself through 40 more miles? Like,
dude, I just kept
telling yourself.
So quick little backstory, so you kind of understand like why this. Part of this was just me being naive was part of it. Mm-hmm. So my first ultra was running the Grand Canyon. COVID, It was March 2020 is when I ran it. My buddy had just rafted to Colorado and hiked out of Phantom Ranch, and then he was like, "Yeah, dude, it's amazing. You got to go." And I was like, "Well, maybe I'll just go run it." So literally 2 weeks later, I packed a cooler full of food. No idea how to fuel for ultra marathons, nothing. I just went to the Grand Canyon and ran this thing.
With the cooler?
No. I had my pack, and I just like, that's just like, but like that's, I literally brought a change of clothes, food for me to eat for a couple days, and then like my running fuel.
Just go do this. Yeah.
This is how much I knew about it at the time. My running fuel is I had a few Spring Energy gels, a pack of saltines, and tuna, like the tuna packs. That's what I brought. That's how much I knew about ultra running, is I fueled off of Spring Energy and saltines.
Oh my God. So this is actually not the first time we've heard the trial by fire of another ultra runner, right? Just like, yeah, this is okay.
Right.
We find out very quickly it's not.
I probably wouldn't eat anything like an idiot. So
yeah, this guy. So go on.
So then I ran the tallest peak in Utah. It was about 35 miles. It's called Kings Peak. Same thing. I just packed a bunch of random shit and went and ran this thing. But yeah, then we come around to Whiskey Basin, and that's how my ultra running journey started, was just like chaos. Whiskey Basin, my first like official run, aid stations. It's my longest race, it's 60 miles. I'm like, okay, let's see how this goes. Like, I had a little bit more understanding of running nutrition at this point. I'd done a few things, I'd figured it out, but still I had no crew, unsupported. I just put everything in. I didn't do drop bags. I didn't do anything. I just put everything in my bag, and I just ran this race. So yeah, I just like, part of it was just like, I was so naive, and I was like, well, I signed up for this, so I got to finish. Like, what else am I going to do? Quit? Like, and so I just like, that was literally my mindset. I was like, what else am I going to do? Quit? At mile 40, I knew it was bad. And so at mile 40, I was like, if they don't have athletic tape for me to tape my ankle, I've got to quit, because there's something wrong. They had athletic tape, and I know how to tape an ankle. So I taped my own ankle, and I kept running.
He's like, shit, they have tape.
Yeah, I'll do it myself.
No, do you know what's funny is that's what a lot of people's like. A lot of people thought it was like, oh shit, they have tape. I was so stoked they had tape.
Yeah, there you go.
I was so stoked that they had tape, and I taped myself up. I was like, okay, I can finish this. Like, I'm not gonna have any more pain now. The pain never went away. It was still hell. But yeah, no. Then I just tracked on. I went from on pace to finish top 10. Odds is based off where I was at, I probably would have gotten like 6th or 7th place. And I ended up getting second to last.
Yeah, but still.
Yeah.
Hey man, you finished it, and it's those races like I had. They just make you, and it just kind of makes you like want the need for more races like that,
like as bad. Honor.
Yeah, it is. It's just a badge of honor.
Push through that.
Yeah, like I had 150 out here. It was the first 50 I was actually like healthy to run, and dude, it was terrible. It was a nightmare, and I ended up going 15 minutes past the cutoff at the finish line. So I technically DNF'd, but I finished the distance. But they're like, all right, sorry, you're done. DNF. And I was like, well, shit. All right. I finished it though. I did what I could do. And it was like a struggle. tendons on my Achilles and everything were just so jacked up.
Mhm.
Again, this was just like a learning thing for me. And I went back and I got redemption on that race later, which felt good. But I mean, that fueled me for so many more races beyond that. Yeah. So, I mean.
And then he came home and you passed out.
Oh,
right?
yeah. So you passed out at
was
the
that
finish
from
line?
pain or?
No, dude, I don't. I was underfueled. I was so underfueled. I was sitting in the kitchen. We all stayed in this like big house. There was a bunch of us that went and ran or crewed or whatever. We all just stayed in this big house, and someone that lives in the area, and they were hosting us. And yeah, I literally, we were sitting there, and I'm just like sitting there, just like trying to eat, and I got super nauseous, and I thought I was going to throw up. So I was like, shit. So I stood up and I tried to get to the bathroom. And as I was going to the bathroom, I passed out. I hit my face and I cut my cheek open on the banister. A painting in the other room, like behind the wall, like fell off and like shattered. And
Yeah, because you're a big boy.
Yeah, you're a big guy. You hit the wall. Yeah.
Yeah, it was a whole thing. But yeah, no, totally passed out after that run.
I mean, I have a question for both of you. Why do you think you don't quit? Like, why are you guys not?
Oh,
You're going through that much pain. What keeps you guys going?
Oh man, I don't know. I just don't quit. I just don't quit. Like I signed up for something and I'm like, I'm not going to quit. There's obviously times you're supposed to quit. There are times that you need to quit. Like I honestly should have quit. I was out for almost 6 months because of that injury.
Okay, so I've learned from that too, right? Like I've had some races that I should have quit and just injured the Achilles even more, like pushing through the last bit that I probably shouldn't have. And that's kind of where I talk about it often too.
Because you ran 100.
Yeah, I've gotten a little more comfortable with talking about my DNFs and being okay with not finishing, right? So I've still yet to do 100 miles. That's like my goal. I went for Javelina 100, didn't sign up for a single race, trained for that whole 9 months, got the flu for my daughter a couple days before. I'm like, I'm going to go ahead and just run this anyway. This is all I've been waiting for. And this was last year when it was 100-degree weather, right? 62 miles in, man. And I'm like passing out at the last part. My legs aren't turning, like physically just not even moving. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, okay, let me just see if I could take a little nap here. And I couldn't even like take a nap in the chair. I'm like, dude, something's messed up. My body's physically done. And I took that moment. I was with my wife, my kids. Again, shout out to the wives out there, man, who are taking care of us to do this stuff. Yeah. And I had that in mind, right? I was like, well, they've airlifted 2 people out of here. I could finish this right here. I'll probably be crawling across the finish line at another noon heat wave, right? Mm-hmm. What kind of kidney failure am I going to have? What am I going to be really feeling? Do I want my wife to have to ring up the kids, pack up the whole site, get me to a hospital? And I was like, you know what?
And it's not like you hit a wall at 62. You were hurting
I was
from
hurting.
The beginning and then hurting even more at 40, but you still pushed.
Yeah, that other 22 miles, right. But it was like physically my body could not do it anymore. Yeah. And I just had to be okay with it. I had to be like, you gave it your best shot. You couldn't fuel beyond the flu and the heat. And it was a bummer, man. It was like I was so depressed,
and that's crazy depressed. Because you beat your 50.
Yeah, that was the longest I'd ever ran, right?
Time. Right.
So I went a couple months later and signed up for a 50-mile race so I can get a win in, because we're masochists. Yeah. But yeah, so I know we're kind of getting here to the end of it, and like I said, man, we only scratched the surface. I want one quick question about if you have, any advice for somebody just starting the running journey. Clearly, we've all made mistakes. Is there anything that you would tell somebody who's considering an ultra, considering a marathon, or considering just running anything? Any advice that you would like to give them?
Yeah, on par with everything we've talked about. Just don't quit.
There you go.
You just got to keep running. So sign up for that next race, man.
We're gonna get him to do it.
I've done some 5Ks since, but I've never done another half marathon.
No, you just gotta don't quit.
And I played club my whole life.
He's a really good soccer player. I don't get how he can't run like this. This man.
Have you ever heard of Hella Sidibe? I think that's how you say his name.
Oh yeah, I've seen.
Hella good.
Yeah. I've seen him out there. I saw him at Javelina and follow a couple of his stuff. I have to show him to you. I did like a Wednesday runner spotlight on him.
He was a pro soccer player. He played in the pros for a while, and now has run across America. He's done all these crazy ultra running things. He's qualified for Boston a handful of times. Like the dude's insane. He also has run every single day for 7 years now.
Yep, he's 7, going on 8 years this year, I believe.
In
insane.
May.
I'm going to share his profile.
I mean, I
with
did
you.
track too. Every day I hated running. I love chasing something. But
We play pickup games on Sundays, and we just battle each other out. But I just watch his speed. I'm like, if he could only just sustain that, man, this man would be an insane runner. But he hates it. He only gives himself. Here's the other thing is, like, I have friends who will only do the mile. Dude, even for us, the first mile's terrible. You don't really get the good stuff until you get past, 12 miles, something like that, where you're like in the groove of it, right, and going. But I'm gonna cut this short. I want to be respectful of your time, Mason, dude. It didn't fail, and I'm so happy that you were able to join us.
Yeah, this was great.
I'm looking forward to talking with you post-run. We wish you the best of luck. Can you go ahead and give your social media handle, the foundation where people can find, follow, and donate for your next run? Yeah,
so Buff Runner across the board, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube. We're going to be doing a whole YouTube series across the run. We're also going to be doing a documentary that will come out obviously post-run. That'll all be on YouTube, and then everything will be on Instagram and TikTok. Again, Buff Runner on there. My website's buffrunner.com. You could donate to the Single Parent Project there. I don't do donations directly. Like, a lot of people will set up GoFundMes for things like this and then donate the money. I don't do that. You're actually donating directly to the organization, straight to the singleparentproject.org. But all their links are on my website, buffrunner.com.
Perfect. And I'll add those to the show description as well, and make sure everybody can see it there.
I have one more off-air question real quick.
Off-air?
I mean, or off. You can insert it if you want.
I'll insert it.
But I always ask all the runners this question. Does distance symbolize something? Like, why not just run a marathon faster? Why are you guys searching? It appears like to me searching for longer and longer distances.
It's mental. It's all mental. It's mental.
Yeah.
Like, running a fast marathon is very physically difficult. Mm-hmm. You have to fight tooth and nail to hit that goal. However, you don't unlock that mental pain cave, that mental grind, until you pass the marathon.
Mm-hmm. Okay. That makes sense.
That's why.
Yeah. I love it. Mason, I appreciate it. Thank you for joining us. Stick around for about 1 minute after, and we'll talk to you. Thank you very much for joining us. This has been another episode of the Ostrich Running Podcast with Mason Wright. What a wild ride.
Yeah, awesome.
Cue that outro music.